Hi guys, we're starting our hamstring focus flow. You're going to need a lightweight broom handle and a TheraBand. So come and lie on your backs. So feet hip distance apart. And we're going to focus on our connection, posture and breath first of all. So we want to feel that connection underneath both our feet, the lumbosacral junction, TL junction, both shoulder blades and the back of the head. So we'll start back at our feet and we're just going to shift the weight from side to side until we feel like we've got equal balance between the right and left foot. And then when you feel like you've got that connection equally, think about where you're feeling that connection. So you're feeling it on the outside of the foot or you're feeling it on the inside of the foot. If you're feeling it on the outside of the foot, we're going to try and bring that inner arch down towards the floor by pushing the big toe into the floor, but keep the knees pointed towards the ceiling, so keep your ankles in a neutral position. If you're feeling it more on the inside of the foot, you're going to do the opposite and try and bring that outer arch down towards the floor, but keep the big toe pressing into the floor, knees pointed towards the ceiling. Okay, so once you've got that, work your way up to your lumbosacral junction, and we're just going to start to peel the spine away from the floor, taking the pelvis into an anterior tilt, and then reverse peel. So taking the pelvis into a posterior tilt. So just going forwards and backwards with that pelvis, lifting the spine away and then lowering the spine into the floor. And then you're just going to pause in the midpoint between the two end ranges. Lower back should be flat on the floor. So no gap between your back and the floor, but you shouldn't be caved into the floor either. So you should now feel like you've got a neutral pelvis, neutral lower back, lumbosacral junction should be feeling connected with the floor. Next up to the rib cage and pelvis, so they want to be, think of them like the pages of a book, so we want the pages to be closed, so what we don't want is to have this open book appearance. So if you put your hands on your ribs and feel like your ribs are sticking up, we want to try and close your ribs and pelvis together like you're closing the pages of a book. So bring those parallel, bring those into connection. And your TL junction should now feel more connected. Shoulder blades, they want to be equal from side to side, so shuffle the weight. And the shoulders want to be neutral, so we don't want elevation and forward movement of the shoulders. We're going to try and bring the shoulders down towards the floor, externally rotate and depress them towards your back pocket on the same side. So you'll feel the muscles working underneath the back and underneath the shoulder. And then move up to your head. So your head is going to push straight down towards the floor, eyes pointing towards the ceiling. And what we don't want is to fall into neck extension. So keeping a neutral neck position. Feel those muscles at the front of the neck switch on. Okay, so now we've got our connection. Put one hand on your chest, one hand on your tummy. And we're just going to focus on getting the breath in the right order first of all. So you take a breath in, feel the hand on the tummy lift on the breath in, and then breathe out and feel the hand on the tummy lower. Hand on the chest doesn't want to move anywhere. So really focusing on what's going on in the abdomen, so focusing on it, thinking about it, feeling it, thinking about those muscles lifting the hand on the breath in and lowering on the breath out. So once you feel like you've got your breath in the right order, put your hands around your waist, thumbs digging into the back, fingertips around the front. We're just going to think about that expansion. So we want to now create our 360-degree breath. So by 360 degrees, I mean you're going to feel those muscles all the way around the abdominal wall expand outwards when you take a breath in. And then as you breathe out, the muscles are going to relax. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, through pursed lips. Imagine you're blowing through a straw. So if you're struggling to feel that activation, if you just put your hands around your waist and cough, and you'll feel those muscles activate with the cough. And now I want you to think about those muscles. So use that as a little bit of a wake up to let your brain know where the muscles are. And now expand. And you want it to be equal from front to back and from side to side. So if there's anywhere you're struggling with, really focus on that area. Give it a poke and a prod. And try and think about inflating that area equally with the rest of the abdomen. Okay, so once we've got the 360-degree breath, you're going to create your brace. So we don't want to clench and tense, we're not sucking the belly button in, we're doing a breath in with an outward expansion, and then before you take your breath out, you're going to do an outward push, like you're imagining that you're about to fart. So you're going to breathe in 360 degrees, create that little outward push, like you're imagining that you're about to fart, and then try not to let the muscles completely relax as you're breathing out. Do a couple more breaths. So when you're doing things day to day that need more stability, you're going to need to be able to create that breath and brace at the same time. Okay, so we're just going to start by taking one foot up into the air and then lower it down, and then take the opposite leg up into the air and lower it down. So alternating legs first of all. Focusing on this movement coming from the hip, so keeping control what's happening in the pelvis and the lower back. And then if your back's feeling okay, if it's not, keep doing single legs, but if your back's feeling good, you're going to create your 360-degree breath, and then we're just going to lift both the legs up into the air and then slowly lower down. And lift and slowly lower down. Controlling the pelvis. Don't let that pelvis tilt forwards. Don't let your lower back arch. Don't let your ribs flare. So we're lifting and lowering. then we're going to take the legs up into our 3-month supine position. So feet are going to be higher than the knees, ankles neutral, knees over the hips, hips at 90 degrees and externally rotated and abducted. So knees are going to be wider than the hips and feet are going to be narrower than the knees. We're just going to hold that position, put the TheraBand around one of your feet, and we're just going to stretch one leg up. So we're just stretching out that hamstring on one of your legs, first of all. So we're trying to keep the hip in flexion now, so we're bringing the hip a little bit more into flexion than in the 3-month supine. And then just try and push your foot towards the ceiling, just feel that lengthening through the back of the hamstring. Keep breathing 360 degrees. Make sure your foot's still in a neutral position. Couple more seconds. And then swap sides, so you're going to be putting the band around the other foot. And then just trying to stretch out the back of that leg. So keeping the hip flexed, extending the knee, foot's going a bit further up. Keep the foot neutral. A few more seconds. And then you can either put the band around both your feet, or if you've got the flexibility, grab hold of your feet with both of your hands, and we're going into the 6-month supine position. And we're going to try and keep the hips flexed, and then we're going to try and extend the knees. So we're just trying to extend the knee, feeling that increase in the hamstring length. Breathe in 360, and then on the exhalation try and get the knees a little bit more extended. More seconds. Okay. Lower your legs down, bring your knees to your chest. And then we're just going to do that one more time. So grab hold of your feet into your 6-month supine. Lost my foot. Again, breathe in 360, and then on the breath out, we're just going to try and lengthen through the hamstrings a bit more by extending the knees, but keeping the hips flexed. So try not to just extend the hips and straighten the knees. We want to keep those hips flexed, and we're lengthening the hamstring. Couple more seconds. And back down into your 3-month supine. Then give your knees a little hug. And we're going to go into our rolls. So fingertips pointed to the ceiling. Put your 360-degree breath, and then we're just going to start to roll onto our side. Look the direction that you want to turn, and then you're going to roll onto your back, and then onto the other side. And we want to make sure we've got our Lego body, so shoulders and pelvis move at the same time. So you don't want to go pelvis and shoulders, or shoulders and pelvis. And we want to control the movement, so we're not just landing heavily on our side and we're not throwing ourselves back. So we're controlling it nice and steady, nice and slow. And when we roll onto our side, make sure we've got our straight spine. We don't want banana spine. Do a couple more from side to side. And then roll up onto your side, into your lower oblique sit, and then into high oblique sit, and then bring that back leg round into your tripod. And we are going to do some tripod hinging. So we're focusing on keeping this hip flexion and flexing the opposite hip, keeping flat through the spine, and then lowering back, feeling that length through that front hamstring. But only go as far back as that front knee is comfortable with. So if you want to get more of a hamstring stretch, if you can't go back too far, just take your foot a bit further forwards. So we're just hinging backwards and forwards. And then if you want to pause backwards in that hamstring stretch and breathe into it. So just going nice and slow. Couple more on this side. And then you're going to come up into your high kneel. And again, we're going to start to hinge. So we're hinging back and just feeling that lengthening through that hamstring. So if you want, you can go all the way back if your knee feels comfortable, or you can just do a little bit of a movement, so not going at the back as far on that back knee, but you can still get that full lengthening of the hamstring. You want to make it a bit more challenging, grab your kettlebell or your light weight and just put it into your chest. focus on your breathing as well. So create your 360-degree breath and then just try and increase the length on that hamstring with the breath out. Couple more. Pop that down. And then what we're going to do now is, instead of going into the high kneel to stand, you're going to sort of extend the knee. So you're pushing your bum backwards and then back down. Push the bum backwards, so you're extending that front knee, so you're going to get that length through that front leg. So like doing a bit of a hamstring stretch, but it's an active hamstring stretch. So up and down, but we're still kind of trying to keep that neutral pelvis, neutral lower back, and pelvis level with the floor. It's a little bit tricky with your balance. Let's do a couple more. Okay, and then come down into your high kneel. Pelvis, so foot not too narrow, foot out to the side, pelvis level with the floor, neutral lower back, and we're just going to go into our stand. So stand from high kneel and pull it down a bit, back down again. So try and focus on keeping the pelvis level with the floor, pelvis facing forwards, knee tracking second and third toe. What we don't want is for your knee to collapse in, pelvis to lift up. So we want to keep nice and level with the floor. And slowly lower down. Try and time 3 seconds to 4 seconds on the way down. Just do one more and then you're going to stand. And then I want you to just keep that leg that you were using to support straight. Bend the opposite knee, so your foot's going to go slightly backwards, and then you're just going to hinge your hip down, keeping this leg fairly straightish with a little bit of a bend, and try and touch the floor with the opposite hand. So you'll feel that lengthening through the hamstring. You don't want to just round your back, so we're keeping that hinge in the hip, so you want to feel that lengthening through your hamstring. If you've got really great balance, you can take one foot off and do it with one foot, but I don't have good enough balance for that. If you want to make it more challenging, grab your light weight and then you're just going to lower that towards the floor. Make sure we keep this neutral pelvis, neutral lower back. Just do a couple more. So don't be surprised if your hamstrings feel a little bit achy tomorrow. Perfectly normal. Let's do one more. Pop the kettlebell down with the light weight. And then bring that opposite leg back. We'll go down into our high kneel. Hands down. Bring that front foot back into the bear, and then bring the opposite leg forwards. And we'll do that little sequence again. So we're going to do some tripod hinges. So lengthen through the spine, and we're just hinging backwards and forwards. Feeling that length through that front leg. Again, only go as far back as you feel you are comfortable with that back knee. So just even if you need to just go a little bit backwards and forwards, just take your leg a little bit further forward so that you can get that lengthening through the hamstring. And then pause at the back for a few seconds. And then you're going to come up into your high kneel, and we're going to hinge back again. So nice and lengthen through the spine, and hinge. If you want to go all the way back, you can. If you want to just go part of the way, that's fine. Again, if you want to make it more challenging, grab your weight. Make sure we keep nice and long through the upper back. Bit I always struggle with is my upper back. Trying to keep nice and lengthened through there and not let it round. And then pop the weight down, and we'll do that high kneel to hamstring stretch. So we're coming up, sticking the bum back, stretching that front leg, so extending the knee. Again, keep your balance. Keep neutral. Just do a couple more. Pretty tough.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're going to go down into our high kneel. Make sure we're not too narrow with the foot. Foot's to the side. Pelvis is level with the floor. Neutral lower back and pelvis. Then you're just going to go into your high kneel to stand in your own time. Knee tracking second and third toe. Keeping the pelvis front on, not letting the pelvis tilt or rotate. And slowly lower down. Just do a couple more on this side. Okay, then we're going to do, so keep that leg a little bit more straight, bend the back leg back, and then we're just going to hinge down, touch the floor with the opposite hand. Again, if you've got the balance and you want to try and do it one leg, by all means go for it. I don't have that balance. But the goal is to try and feel that down that front leg. So don't let that knee bend. So we don't just want to go and bend the knee to get to the floor. So we're going to try and keep the knee at the same angle. We're going to push the bum back to feel that stretch down the back of that leg. So I'll turn this way. If you want to make it more challenging, grab your light weight. Lengthen through the upper back, neutral pelvis, neutral lower back. Turn the heating off. It's getting pretty warm in here now. Just do a couple more. Very nice. Pop the weight down. Then we're going to take the opposite leg back, nice and wide, slowly down into our high kneel, into the tripod. Bring that front foot back into your bear, down onto your knees, and then onto your forearms, into the low quadruped. And we're just going to get the nice position first of all. So tilt your pelvis backwards and forwards. Find your neutral pelvis, neutral lower back. Shoulders active, push the floor away, externally rotate and depress the shoulders, keep the chin, the neck nice and long, so tuck the chin slightly, and then work on trying to extend the upper back. So what we don't want is to be rounded through the upper back. We're going to pull that upper back down towards the floor, keeping that neutral pelvis and neutral lower back. When you've got that, just start to hinge your hips backwards. Controlling that movement so that the lower back and pelvis stays in the same position and the movement just comes from the hips. So go backwards and forwards. Just do a couple more. And then stay in this position, but you're just gonna push, extend your knees, so we're stretching those hamstrings. Keep the neck nice and long, and just hold this position, so bum in the air, legs straight. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower your knees down. Come up into your quadruped. Find your neutral again. Upper back nice and long. Upper back down towards the floor. Shoulders active. Push the floor away. Neck nice and long. And try and hinge the hips backwards. Keeping that neutral lower back and pelvis. And then forwards. And back. Just do a couple more. Okay, so from quadruped, create your 360 breath in your brace and lift your bum in the air, and then we're just going to go from bear and push the legs back into a downward dog and just hold that position. Feel that strength, stretch down the back of the legs. Try and extend the knees fully. Fold from the hip. Lengthen through the spine. Just start to pump your legs, so try and get each heel down to the floor, alternating between the right and left side. And then slowly come down, back down into your quadruped. Just give your arms a little shake. And then find your neutral again, upper back nice and long. Lift your bum in the air. And then hinge your hips backwards. Walk your hands back, but keep your hands on the floor. So you're sort of in like a half-ish squat. So bum's still kind of in the air, hands are on the floor. And then you're going to try and extend the knees. So keeping the hands on the floor, try and extend the knees. But try not to round the lower back if you can. And then bend the knees and extend the knees. Bend, extend, bend, extend, straight as you can, with your hands still on the floor. Ugh. One more. And then just walk your hands back. Give your legs a little shake off before we go into our squat to stand. Again, find your neutral lower back and pelvis, upper back nice and long. Push the floor away with your hands. Create your 360 breath. And you brace, lift your knees off the floor. Hinge your hips backwards. Walk your hands back into your squat. And we're trying to be nice and long through the upper back. And then slowly come up. And we'll just do some squats. So neutral pelvis and lower back. And just in your own time, go through that movement nice and slow. Think about your pelvis and your lower back every time you lower down and then come to stand back up. Try and make sure you don't have any little shifts in the movement. So try and keep neutral. Keep nice and long through the upper back. Think about your weight distribution, making sure we're going equally between the right and left foot. Just do one more of these. And then grab hold of your pole, or whatever it is you've got. Put it behind your neck. Make sure you've got your neutral pelvis, neutral lower back, upper back nice and long. And then we're just going to fold the hip. So lengthening through the hamstrings. We're nearly done now. Just a couple more minutes. So we want to keep the knees at the same angle. So you do want to have a bit of a bend in your knee, but we're keeping the knee at the same angle, bums shifting backwards, so you'll feel lengthening through the hamstrings. Hinging from the hip, lower back pelvis, stay in that neutral position. Then bring the pole in front of you. This is into the standing part of the deadlift position, so hands sort of around shoulder distance apart. And then we're just going to, again, neutral pelvis, neutral lower back, and then run the pole down the legs, shins stay vertical, and then come back up. So when you're picking things up, this is a really good way to do it. It's a protective way for your lower back. As long as you've got your neutral pelvis and your neutral lower back, and keeping nice and long through the spine. And then if you want to make it a little bit more challenging, you can get your lightweight and just hold it down, and then lowering and lifting. Nice. Make sure the bums go back. Make sure that you're not rounding through your lower back. So maybe shift your bum back a little bit further, collect, so there's a little bit more of a bend in the knee. And you can get a bit lower down. Yeah, better. Just do 1 or 2 more and then we're done. Yeah, so you might feel like your hamstrings are a bit tight tomorrow, a bit sore. It's all good. We've had a bit of a workout today. Right, so we're all done. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.